What's up, guys? We're going to talk about fat loss. I'm going to show you guys 6 things to consider and to follow to kind of help your fat loss journey to make this a little more efficient for you. Basically, take out the guesswork. Well, first off, at this phase, I'm considering that people already know what their maintenance calories is. So the first step is to be in a caloric deficit. From your fats and carbohydrates, I suggest you dropping 500 calories. How you drop them out, whether the ratio from fats to carbs is your choice, but I would start with a 500 calorie deficit from your maintenance calories. The next step is make changes every 5 to 7 days. The biggest mistake people make is they make changes too often, too quickly, where case in point, they might be off point on their diet or in sleep and training for like say a day or two, and they go, I'm not losing weight, I'm gonna drop more calories to try to make up for their lack of adherence. That's the biggest mistake you can make. You're 100% for sure going to reach plateaus and you're gonna fail using that method. You just get right back on your plan and increase your adherence to at least 90 to 100% for you to be able to make an appropriate change, or to be able to make a proper assessment and therefore to make a change. So every 5 to 7 days, provide you have 90% or more adherence to your program. That's so important. Do not jump the gun. You're gonna yo-yo, it's gonna be a disaster. Next one, diet and cardio must be progressive, all right? Meaning, if you're on a 500 calorie deficit diet from your maintenance calories, you are adding cardio to your existing weight training program or exercise program, and you're exercising an additional 500 calories off what you normally do. So you're in a 1,000 calorie a day deficit, 7,000 calories a week, roughly 2 pounds of body fat lost, if it worked exactly that way. It doesn't always. That has to be progressive. Over time, eventually, that's not gonna work. Metabolic adaptation occurs. Obviously, if you lose body weight over time, the amount of calories you expend moving around becomes less because you're carrying less weight. So there's that factor. And that's something you need to consider. So things have to be progressive. Now, reactive or proactive, meaning making changes, predicting what's going to happen in a dieting phase, is not the way to go. You want to be more reactive. So you might be going along losing weight, and say you lose 2 pounds each week for 3 weeks, and then you just start making changes. No, you don't want to do that. Just wait and let your body slow the rate of loss or stop before you make a change, and really make sure it's a realistic plateau, not just you go 3 days, you don't see the scale drop, and then you're like, I have to make a change. Back to rule number 2, make sure you make changes every 5 to 7 days so you don't jump the gun on that. So cardio is your tool for progressiveness, and so is nutrition, your calories. Another very important aspect that people miss is keeping your sleep schedule as consistent as possible. I can't really give you studies on this, but I can tell you from personal experience and from helping tons of clients losing weight over the last 15 years that people who work night shift tend to have a much more difficulty time getting in shape than people who work day shift, because the sleep schedules change so much. When your sleep schedule is altered and you're not getting adequate sleep and you're not very regimented, your body's all over the place as far as fluid balance wise and cortisol and such. It's very important to try to kind of reel in that schedule of sleep and kind of be like, all right, you know what? I'm not going to stay up so late anymore. I'm going to go to bed between 9:30 and 11:30, and I'm going to get up between 5:30 and 7:30 and stick to that 7 days a week. I can't tell you how much that will help you, because if you get into a situation where you start to get hungry, you're dieting, you're getting depleted, you're losing body fat, and you go even 1 or 2 nights with poor sleep, that poor sleep hits you like a truck. It's not like when you're eating full calories where you have some sort of energy to rely on from nutrition. When you're in a caloric deficit for a long period of time, sometimes you can get tired. So adequate sleep becomes even more crucial. And not to mention, sleep has a very good cortisol lowering effect. So if you're jacking up cortisol from excessive training, low calories, and you're not getting sleep, your body's just gonna hit a plateau hard. You wanna keep a good regimented plan. Do the best you can, okay? Like obviously a lot of you guys out there might be working different shifts and having different schedules that you can't control, but when it comes to watching Netflix, staying out late, you can control that. and of course, how late you sleep in on days that you can sleep in. A great tool that many people don't understand is step counting, steps. So there's this thing called NEAT, non-exercise activity thermogenesis, which is basically all the calories you burn outside of training. One very difficult obstacle for people who work in the desk job or a computer all day long is you might be sitting and sedentary for 8 hours. It's extremely hard to undo 8 hours of sedentary behavior with just adding copious amounts of cardio to create a large enough deficit to get to that physique, that leanness that you need. So it's important, I think, to track steps. Step is to make you aware of how much you're moving about in the day. That can expend an absurd amount of calories. Setting up a standing desk instead of a sitting desk, or doing a mix of both can greatly increase your calorie burn, maybe up to 300 to 500, 600 calories a day. And if you're somebody who is very sedentary, I mean, you're moving 2,000 to 4,000 steps per day, and your calories are low, and your cardio is already pretty high, there's nowhere else to go. So relying on steps is key, or NEAT. Same sort of thing, moving all about throughout the day. But one important thing about that is steps do not drive up fatigue as much as excessive cardio does. So moving about the day, being busy, getting stuff done around the house, being proactive with things you already need to get done in a day, taking the stairs, not the elevator, parking further away, all can equate to a large number of calories burned in a day that's not going to increase your fatigue. Some people have to end up doing double sessions of cardio for preparation, or they might be even doing an hour a day just to get an extra pound of body fat off per week. It shouldn't be that way if you're able to keep your step count and your NEAT up throughout the day, because that calorie burn will be higher. You can use that as a primary driver, and you can have the deficit in the calories as another component, and of course the cardio as we discussed earlier. So getting a pedometer, a Fitbit, or anything like that that can help track your steps to let you know where you are on average, and you can use that as also as the third progression, because you have your nutrition progression, you have your cardio progression, and you have your step progression. Those are super useful tools that you can manipulate. People forget about the steps, especially those who are in working cubicles at a computer all day long. The last one is fat burners, all right? And a lot of people shake their heads at fat burners. Oh, they don't burn fat. Well, I'll tell you, if you're not on a really strict diet and you're not very consistent, those fat burners don't work as well. Caffeine, all that kind of stuff. Animal cuts, right? Animal cuts has a lot of ingredients in there that help the dieting process be a little more tolerable. It helps kind of fight the appetite a little bit, knocks down your appetite. It's got little appetite suppressants in there. It helps with fat mobilization, like stimulants, caffeine. But what people don't realize is when you're eating lower calories, you're doing cardio, you're increasing your step count, you are being consistent with your schedule, you start to tend to move less, right? If you have less energy, you're like, may not do that, or I already hit my step count, I don't want to move. When people are stimulated, they move more. If you move more, you're expending calories. So a lot of people will say, hey, well, the fat burner doesn't sit there and burn fat off your body. No, it doesn't burn out, just sit there and burn fat off your body like crazy. It helps you assimilate the fat burning process. But most importantly, if you're energetic and you feel better, you're going to move more, which is going to equate to much more calorie burn through the day. So for example, my natural competitors who can't rely on some of the non-natural methods to get shredded, I will usually save a fat burner like animal cuts to their last 4 to 6 weeks of prep. So what I end up doing is, as I exhaust more progression with calorie burn from cardio and steps, and I've lowered their calories, come to the point where maybe they need an extra jump because they're starting to get a little fatigue set in. So I will use animal cuts and fat burners similar to that nature over the counter to help increase that calorie burn by moving more, feeling better, helping with appetite, etc. So that's where they really shine. And you notice a huge difference. Case in point, I got a guy now, 3 weeks out, and we pushed him real hard, and he's within like 6 pounds of his contest weight, and we just started fat burner, and boom, we have a great, huge increase in rate of loss, because as that plateau started to hit in and we've exhausted a lot of the other options, we can help rely on that to give him a boost, because now he feels better at work, he's moving around more, and most important, he's expending more calories. So that's the key. So to review, guys, keep it very simple, because it is simple. It's a matter of discipline, following it, carrying it through, being being stupid consistent. One, you gotta know your maintenance calories, and you gotta be in a caloric deficit. I suggest 500 calories drop to start from fats and carbs, leave the proteins the same. Make changes every 5 to 7 days. Do not jump the gun. And if you have lower than 90% adherence, do not make changes. Just get back on the plan and continue to follow as is. Third, cardio and nutrition need to be progressive, okay? So what has initially caused you to lose will eventually not cause you to lose. That's why you don't crash diet. That's why you don't go too low in calories or too high in cardio to start, because you have to go somewhere, okay? You gotta have stuff in your back pocket to pull out and play. Kind of like a hand you're playing cards. Save your good cards for when you need them. That's very important. 4, consistent sleep schedule and daily schedule. That helps tremendously. If you're all over the place and your sleep's changing all the time, and you're going to bed past midnight, sometimes sleeping until 11, and then sometimes you're going to bed at 10 and you're getting up at 4, it's going to be much more difficult. You're going to be fighting an uphill battle. Correct that as much as you can. I know many of you can't, but what you can control, control. Use step counts as a tool for progression. Get a pedometer, Fitbit, track to find out what your average is. Once you know your average, then you can start a progression from there. Because you'll notice that some days you might move very little, but you want every day to be as consistent as possible. And implement a fat loss supplement like animal cuts towards the end when you start to plateau. You can cycle them, 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off, 3 weeks on, 2 weeks off. But I like to pull them out of my back pocket right when things, once you get, say, 50% of the weight loss off that you need or you project, and then you throw it in as a last weapon to push you the rest of the way. That's what I would suggest. If you guys have any questions, you can comment below. I'll be checking on this video, see if you guys have any questions on this. But these types of steps, I use them in contest prep. I use them in general weight loss, across the board. Hope you guys find this helpful.
This didn't record.
Are you serious?
No, I'm just kidding.
You're an asshole.